You're listening to 392.7 FM. This is Hot Edition. Coming up this hour, NPP heads to the polls in a crucial flag bearer race. Who wins tomorrow's primary? We shall attempt to get answers for you tonight. But also this hour, ECOWAS Community Court grants an application by former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu. The application to amend her motion challenging her suspension to include an application seeking to challenge her removal from the Superior Court and as Chief Justice of this Republic. And also tonight, is Ghana winning the fight against Galamsey? Tonight we'll assess the government's performance so far in the fight against illegal mining. I am Kemini. Details of these and plenty other stories shortly. If you're just joining us, this is 392.7 FM's Hot Edition with me, Kemini Amano. Coming up now is the news summaries with Noura Mohammed. How are you doing?
Hi, Kemini. You're welcome to the news summaries on Hot Edition. First in the summaries, the president of the China Chamber of Commerce in Ghana, Tang Hong, has warned Chinese nationals living and working in Ghana to strictly abide by the country's laws and desist from engaging in illegal activities, including illegal mining. According to him, the contract, irrespective of its terms, must conform to the basic requirements of state law so that the rights protection of the main actors in the surrogacy contract are upheld, being the intended parent, the surrogate, and the baby. On the back of that, President John Dramani Mahama has reiterated his commitment to the fight against illegal mining, widely known as Galamsey, stressing that he will continue decisively and without fear or favor. According to him, the contract, irrespective of its terms, must conform to the basic requirements of state law so that the rights protection of the main actors in the surrogacy contracts are upheld. Now, traders at the Brekum Central Markets of the Bono region are crying over an act of fraud perpetrated on them by a group of fraudsters. The fraudsters have managed to make away with millions of Ghana cedis with no trace. The traders, who are mainly women, numbering over 200 at the Central Markets and Sinasi Markets, paid different sums of money for loan processing, ranging from 250 Ghana cedis and 500 Ghana cedis, with hope of getting loans amounting to 5,000 to 10,000 Ghana cedis respectively. Now, on Friday, January 30, 2026, the Bono Regional Coordinating Council hosted the official signing of performance contracts involving municipal and district chief executives, municipal and district coordinating directors, and human resource managers. Delivering his speech, Joseph Adai Akwabwa, the Bono Regional Minister, underscored the importance of collaboration between the national and regional levels, as the signing marked a significant step towards enhancing decentralization and local governance. Also, Ghana has enough power generation capacity to meet demand, according to Energy Minister John Jinapo, who has reaffirmed that there is no load shedding in the country. In a Facebook post on Friday, January 30, the minister said he has met with leadership of key power sector agencies to review the current state of electricity supply nationwide. He stressed that there has been no load shedding for more than 10 months and that there is no power generation deficit. Mr. Jinapo, however, acknowledged reports of frequent power outages in some parts of Accra and Kumasi. And that'll be all for the summaries. Over to you, Kemini.
Thank you very much, Noura. Have you been experiencing any power fluctuations yourself?
Not that I can remember.
Well,
not really.
I'm glad we've got the news covered on that. Thank you very much, Noura, once again. Let's get into the big ones for tonight. The New Patriotic Party will go to the polls tomorrow, Saturday, January 31st, 2026, in a tightly contested presidential primary that will determine who leads the party into the 2028 general elections. Now, nearly 212,000 delegates are expected to cast ballot at 333 polling centers across the country's 276 constituencies, as voting opens at 7 a.m. and closes at 2 p.m. Now, 5 high-profile aspirants are in the race. They are former Vice President Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, former Sin Central MP Kennedy Ohene Japon, Abetifi MP Dr. Brian Echampong, Bosomtwe MP and former Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, and former NPP General Secretary Engineer Kwabena Ajay Ajapong. Now first, let's see what is happening in the regions when the party has strong footing. The Eastern region, as you very well know, will play a critical role in deciding the outcome of the NPP's flag bearer election. Now, our Yvonne Nikwe has been gauging the mood of residents and delegates there, as well as assessing the level of preparedness of the Electoral Commission and the police service ahead of the polls.
In the Eastern region, over 22,000 delegates are expected to cast their ballots at 36 voting centers spread across the 33 constituencies.
The region has become a critical battleground due to the wide margin of votes the NPP usually wins in the national elections.
As a result, the candidate who secures the highest support in the region could significantly influence the overall outcome of the flag bearer race. Out of the 5 candidates contesting the NPP flag bearership, Brian Echampong is the only contender from the Eastern region. The big questions remain: will he enjoy overwhelming support from his home base? However, political analysts say current opinion polls do not place him in a strong winning position. Ultimately, delegates will decide who earns the mandate to lead the party into the next phase of the political contest this Saturday.
We want somebody who can come and unite the party. And looking at all the 5 candidates, Echampong stand tall.
For the better for the party, and we have to elect a winnable candidate, not a flag bearer. We knew Dr. Alhaji Mamadou Bawumia be the best candidate for us.
PP Abanwa, Yeba Beto. Obia Penedachi, and then Ma, and of mine yedia. Almost Obama can Japan.
The Eastern Regional Secretary of the NPP, Tony Osei Ejay, has cautioned delegates to strictly adhere to the rules governing the party's primaries to ensure a peaceful and credible exercise.
The election is going to be free and fair. That's why all the voting centers are in the open. So whoever pick a ballot box to go and cast his or her ballot will be seen. It's only that you may not know who the person is voting for or whom the person is voting for. But my advice to them is that we should conduct ourselves in a way that will bring peace during and after the election. And whoever emerges the day, like Professor Dubois said, every person, the individual should sing the song of the flag bearer who has been elected.
The Electoral Commission Regional Director John Apia Bafo has assured all laws governing electoral operations will be strictly enforced.
The elections are governed by laws, so they should make sure that they are conversant with the laws, with the guidelines, so that they don't come there to disturb.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service says it has a mandate to ensure peace before, during, and after the election.
Our Yvonne Nikwe with that report. Now, we have also been finding out from a cross-section of Ghanaians what they think about these 5 candidates. Take a listen.
I mean, still lead the party. But, you know, when Kennedy go to the top, and when Kennedy becomes a president one day, maybe when things are not going on, I mean, no one can control Kennedy because we know how he is. He's a man of himself, and sometimes he doesn't listen to anyone. He takes in action whatever he likes.
For me, my view is Dr. Bawumia will lead MPP to 2028 victory because he's credible. He's very, very credible. And in fact, as a party, you can't even change your candidate just like that. Whoever you bring, I don't know how you are going to market him, so I think I'm going for Dr. Bawumia.
They maintain one. We are MPP. We are full MPP. But some fucking Jabama. Me boni baba teta ndi mati. E be so ti MPP.
Sisu bi o se den.
Some fucking Jabama. Me boni baba teta ni. Oh mati. E be so ti MPP. We are one opposition then. Maybe your prison manager or cycle. Number 2 market. One more. We go to Fosso. It's your mom for Kennedy and Ma. Who only Pabe and Pimmy and Sass. It was a oh, wow. Yeah. It was a TMP. Ghana, Yatra judge, I know it. Yatra lawyer, who for I know it. Yatra economist, I know it. You pay business mind. When America, a business mind. China president. Odika, we get ni. And the American say, Obi Odika, everybody Ghana so. Pressure manager is telling MPP that if they do not bring Kennedy Japan, he is going to marshal some 3,000 people to vote against the NPP. What's the name? What's the name?
Where do I kuku? I don't know about Baumiani to Abanamano. Number 3. Yame watching. Obia got to my Baumia number 3. Yatoni Dada. Yampe Ibia. Okay. She says Baumia is a candidate you can sell.
Yentuma Baumia. Yentia, a mamma pet Baumia, somebody said. Canada, Japan, first, near who said, oh, yeah, any part. But I say, Nicasa, Munini, Mono, I'm a young who said, Sabi, you need your baby and the Casa and good MPP animals.
Who do you want to be voted for?
Canada, Japan.
Why Kennedy?
Kennedy, or sending Yuma, our bay. Campaign, and we are the same. Then come to Aba. Obisa about more Juma. Obisa say about our decata, or more Ganakan. It was our question say, Ganakan, a Biajumana.
That report by Christian Yale. Now, in the crucial hours ahead of the primary, candidates have been making last-minute appeals to delegates.
Will be left behind. That is why I come to this with a greater sense of urgency. A 24th century president must have some attributes. An attribute where you really know what it takes to transform a country. We've looked at the case of Singapore. Transformation through industrialization with a strong STEM-based education regime. Singapore did it. China, under Deng Xiaoping, decided to embark on transformation after visiting.
Not for the first time has ever won a presidential election. You know, you look at Edu Boahim, he did not win first time. President Kufuor, he did not win first time. President Akufo-Addo, he did not win first time. And Dr. Bawumia did not win first time. But every presidential candidate who has been repeated in our presidential politics in the MPP, every presidential candidate who has been repeated has won an election for the MPP. And so Kufuor was repeated, he brought us power. Nana Akufo-Addo was repeated, he brought us power. So I'm telling the delegates to repeat Dr. Bawumia so that by the grace of God, I will bring us power in 2028.
We cannot afford revenge politics. Our true task is not defeating one another. Our true task is rebuilding trust in the Ghanaian people. Dear delegates, I'm appealing to you to vote for me on Saturday. What I want to remind you is we are not just going to elect a flag bearer, but a winnable candidate who can give us a victory in 2028. And there's no other candidate than Kennedy Japan. So victory will be ours in 2028 if you decide on Kennedy Japan on Saturday. A candidate that is trusted, inspires hope, accepted, and capable of winning the MPP power in 2028. And I can Ohine Japan, #1 on the ballot remains.
You heard from 3 of the candidates in the presidential primary of the NPP slated for January 31st, 2026. We'll now cross over to the Ashanti region where my colleague William Evans Inkom has been gauging the mood in the home region of the NPP. Evans is joining us now via telephone. Evans, good evening to you. Talk to us about how the Ashanti region is shaping up for the event tomorrow.
Well, the atmosphere is pretty calm, but intermittently you see siren, a big street of cars, and indicative that there are, some big wigs of the opposition MPP currently in the Ashanti region begging to monitor and, of course, observe the exercise tomorrow. For instance, one of the cars that I eardrop, I saw one of the big wigs, an indication that they are all here just to ensure that tomorrow's exercise becomes nothing short of peaceful. The security is also ready. I mean, per their posture, they are ready to also offer security. As far as what the IGP said, that the police is ready to offer nothing short of absolute security to ensure that there's some level of sanctity as far as tomorrow's exercise is concerned. In the Ashanti region, we are expecting an excess of 36,000, exactly 36,626 delegates across 47 constituencies to vote. So here in the Ashanti region, it's pretty calm. We are all waiting for tomorrow.
Evans, hang in there for me. We're also joined by Musa Dankwa, who is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Musa, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very well. I'll finish with Evans and then I'll come to you. Evans, talk to us about the number of candidates, or excuse me, the number of delegates who are voting in the Ashanti region this time.
Right. So the delegates were supposed. So if let me put it this way, the gross figure is 37,188, but 562 are currently deceased. So we're expecting 36,626 delegates to vote across 47 constituencies in the Ashanti region. Every constituency, or each constituency, is a center. So, for instance, if you come to the Asoka constituency, they have only one polling center that the delegates will be queuing to cast their vote. So that is how the whole thing looks like.
Evans, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. Evans Inkum is our Ashanti region correspondent. Next is Musa Dankwa. Again, he's Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Musa, your polls have consistently, if I'm not wrong, indicated that the former Vice President is in the lead, is likely to be the winner, come end of tomorrow's event. A few hours now to the primary itself. What are your polls saying?
Right. Thank you very much for having me. The latest poll that we had was released last Friday, and the numbers for us has not changed materially. Definitely, every day things may happen in the polls. But if you look at the poll we published, on the headline poll, Bawumia was on 48%. And Kennedy was 25%. That is about 23% gap margin. Now, if you divide this 23% by the margin of error, the gap is about 14.6 times the margin of error. Usually, when the gap is like that, it is highly unlikely it will change. And again, when we spoke to the delegates, only 9% of them said they could change their mind. Now, a delegate who says he could change his mind will be waiting to see if the campaign ends well. If you don't commit any campaign gaffe, nothing changes. If you commit some gaffes, then those who say they could change their mind, indeed could change their mind. So even if they do, we don't see that change of mind significantly affecting the outcome of the election.
I see, Musa, we'll come back to the candidates, but I do want us to look at the regional projections in the NPP race. Let's start off with the voter region, right? We see Kwabna Ajay Japan, and for those who are listening to us on radio, you can log on to facebook.com. The 3FM channel has projected the regional projections of the NPP race as presented by Global Info Analytics. But Musa, 0% in the voter region for Kwabna Ajay Japan. Dr. Yawe Duchung, we are seeing same, 3% for Dr. Brian Echampong. But when you look at what we could say the two front runners, Kennedy Ohene Japan and Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, 40%, 57%, how did we come to that?
You know, he's always led in the voter region since the poll started. And indeed, if you remember, he won the last primaries in the voter region. So it shouldn't be surprising that Kennedy is leading in voter region. I'm told he has some connections to voter region by my family relations. And also, there are key figures in voter registration that are backing him. One of them is former MP Hoy, Ameu, and Ameu is a big figure in the voter region among MPP. So you shouldn't be surprised that he's leading in the voter region at all.
But nearby OT region, we see it flip because then Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is at 72% and Kennedy Ohene Japan at 23% in these projections. What does it say?
Well, it tells you that voter region and OT behave differently when it comes to MPP primaries. The numbers are quite clear. Bawumia has a very dominant position in the OT region. And remember, OT region borders the northern region. So you see a lot of the money that Banis spill over into the OT region, and that will strengthen Bawumia's position there. And that's why we see him in that high numbers.
I see. Overall, who is the most dominating candidate across the regions?
I mean, it's Bawumia certainly, because he is dominating in 14 out of the 16 regions. Kennedy is dominating in just 2, voter region that you just mentioned, and then the central region, which is obviously his home ground.
But again, I would like our listeners to know that this is a plus or minus 4% margin of error projection. Why is the margin of error so big?
No, because if you look at the headline poll itself, the headline poll has a margin of error of 1.57. And normally when you begin to descend into regional numbers, the margin of error sometimes doubles. So that's why you see that it's like that. Because the sample, the focus of the survey was not the region per se, it was national. So if you begin to look down to the region, then the margin of error will increase because the sample size may then be a limitation factor. That's why the margin of error will increase.
And I want to focus again on the 2 frontrunners, Kennedy Ohene Japan and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Based on the qualitative aspects of your poll, should the delegates go for DMB, what does it say in terms of where the mind of the party is? And if they go for Kennedy Ohene Japan, what does it also say in terms of the mindset of the NPP?
Look, we know that MPP is a conservative party, and conservative parties are different in the way they elect or who they elect to lead them. Now, they tend to like steadiness and somebody that's predictable. So on that basis, if you look at the demography of MPP delegates, they suit that kind of criteria, and that is why they are likely to elect Kennedy. But if they do go to do otherwise, as the poll has suggested, then it means that there is a lot of people who are looking for change that are not telling us the truth. But it's highly unlikely they will elect Kennedy, from what we've seen. I don't want to speculate into the other scenarios because it's highly unlikely looking at the margin of error and the margins that we have.
Well, I can understand. Thank you so much, Musa, for your time here.
It's my pleasure.
Musa Dankwa is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Away from the NPP presidential primary, also remember that over here on 392.7 FM, your election command center will bring you full coverage of the primary tomorrow, Saturday, January 31st, 2026, from morning till the very last, time that the event happens. But away from that quickly, President John Mahama has reiterated his commitment to the fight against illegal mining, widely known as Galamsey, stressing that he will continue decisively and without fear or favor. Speaking at a Ghana Military Academy graduation ceremony on Friday, January 30th, 2026, he says government has already taken steps to combat illegal mining, including declaring some forest reserves and rivers security zones to avoid further destruction. He noted that while these measures are yielding positive results, he will not be complacent and relent in the strike against illegal mining.
We cannot afford.
Distinguished guests, the security environment in our sub-region remains complicated and volatile. Violent extremism, terrorism, and transnational crime continue to pose serious threats, particularly along our northern border. Globally, the rise of non-state actors and asymmetric warfare has reshaped the nature of security challenges. These realities demand a comprehensive and coordinated national response. Security cannot be seen as the sole responsibility of the armed forces and security agencies. It is a shared national duty. Citizens, communities, traditional authorities, civil society, and government must work together to protect the peace and stability we all so cherish. I therefore urge all Ghanaians to remain vigilant and security conscious in safeguarding our nation's peace.
John Mahama is President of the Republic of Ghana. We'll bring in now Awula Sewa, who is the National Coordinator for Eco-Conscious Citizens. Awula, I appreciate your time this evening, but the President is reiterating his commitment to fighting illegal mining. It's 2026. We know the efforts that were put in 2025. What are your thoughts?
Well, good evening to you and your listeners. I mean, we thank the President for wanting to fight illegal mining. The reality is that the situation on the ground is worrying, especially when we look at our water bodies. What is the status of Finn, the Pra, the Ancombra? You know, our water bodies are still under siege. There's still illegal mining going on there, and our water bodies are still being poisoned. And you might recall that our scientists have told us that as a consequence of our water bodies being poisoned, the poisoned water has entered the food chain, and obviously our food is also being poisoned. Not just the contumely, we have our tubers and other food crops. So we face an existential threat, and we really need to confront this irresponsible mining with all the resources that we have to bring an end to it, because we are all being poisoned.
Someone would argue that, based on the work of NIMOS and the water guards, there appears to be improvement. In fact, the water company has told us how things have improved substantially for them, despite there being a long way to go. But your assessment now says, look, we are still being poisoned. There's nothing there. How do you reconcile that?
Nobody is saying that no work has been done. I mean, we commend NIMOS with the limited resources that they have. We think they're doing a very good job with the limited resources we have. But we're looking at the enormity of the task. Look at the analogy of having, let's say, 1,000 fires raging. We put out 3 or 4. That's fantastic, but there's still so many more to put out. And in this particular case, we are running, there's a time bomb. If we don't deal with this problem sooner rather than later, the whole country will be in flames. We're all being poisoned. So we're not saying that NIMOS is doing a good job with the limited resources it has, but the problem is there. And also what we need to do now is have an independent body test our waters, not just for the turbidity, but also for the heavy metals. Because we all know that the color of water does not tell us what heavy metals are in it. For example, we know that arsenic, cyanide, mercury do not have a color. So even if the water is clear, it doesn't mean that it's free of these very harmful substances. So we need to have our water bodies analyzed, let's say every month, by an independent body, so we really know what is the true lay of the land.
Ola, it's a new year. What will be your expectations of the government in terms of concrete steps? So think about it as the president following up on his reiteration of his commitment.
You see, the situation is dire. We still face an existential threat. We are still being poisoned. So we need to understand that our water is life. Our water bodies are under siege. And there's another worrying development taking place in the Ahafo region. We have in Honorable Dorothy Collins' constituency, we have what they call the leaching of cyanide into the water bodies. Cyanide in high quantities. This is very, very serious. So the fight needs to be redoubled. We need to understand that we are dealing with environmental terrorists, and we need to deal with them regardless of where they find themselves. We need to have key performance indicators. Where there's illegal mining going on, we need to find out what the political authority is doing about it, what the chiefs are doing about it, and what the police are doing about it. And the last thing we need to do is to antagonize activists who are fighting against illegal mining, as in Option 2, where environmental activists who were resisting the poisoning of their water bodies, their Tronso stream, the only source of drinking water, are being prosecuted. You see, the fight needs all hands on deck. We need the support of activists who can help with intelligence and other factors. We cannot be prosecuting those who are helping the fight against illegal mining. Because I keep on saying it, time is running out. Time is running out. We're on the verge of an ecological catastrophe. And if we don't deal with the matter robustly, we'll all perish.
Indeed, thank you very much for your time this evening. Awula Sewa with Eco-Conscious Citizen. Now, just before we take leave of you, the ECOWAS Community Court has granted an application by former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, the application to amend her motion challenging her suspension to include an application seeking to challenge her removal from the Superior Court and as Chief Justice of the Republic. Justice Tokonu had earlier filed a lawsuit at the ECOWAS Court of Justice on July 4th, 2025, alleging human rights violations regarding her April 22, 2025 suspension. She is also seeking some $10 million in compensation for her suspension. More of that story in later newscasts. Right now, however, we'll bring you some business and sports news here on Hot Edition. I am Kemini Amano. Remember that tomorrow we will bring you full coverage of the NPP primary here on 392.7 FM. Your election command center returns to the airwaves. Bye-bye. Good evening. You're welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Nura Mohammed. Coming up tonight, Ghana's customer satisfaction plummets to record low of 59%. Ghana's customer satisfaction plummets to record low of 59%. Ghana's overall customer satisfaction score has fallen sharply, dropping from 72% in 2024 to 59% in 2025, according to the latest Ghana Customer Service Index. The report assessed customer experience across 11 key industries, using indicators such as trust, professionalism, competence, ease of doing business, process efficiency, and customer-focused innovation. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
The insurance sector emerged as the best performing industry with a satisfaction score of 71%, followed by the banking sector at 61%. At the bottom of the rankings was the telecommunication sector, which recorded a 53% score despite being one of the most digitized sectors of the economy. The survey analyzed feedback from more than 5,000 customers across Accra, Kumasi, and other regions. It found that trust remains the most important driver of customer satisfaction across all sectors. Within the banking sector, Stanbic Bank recorded the highest satisfaction score at 76%, followed by EcoBank with 64%. In hospitality, Aqua Safari remained the top performing brand with an 81% rating, although this was down from last year. Utilities ranked among the top 4 performing sectors, with Ghana Water Limited emerging as the best performing utility. In the public sector, the Ghana Revenue Authority led the rankings, followed by SNET and the Food and Drugs Authority. The institute says organizations must improve service quality and build stronger customer-focused cultures to restore public confidence.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana's customer satisfaction plummeting to record low of 59%. In other news, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has issued a powerful call for accountability and tangible results in Africa's quest for economic integration, stating that the continent's progress will ultimately be measured by its ability to deliver on infrastructure and institutional trust. Speaking at the closing ceremony of the Africa Trade Summit 2026 in Accra, the Vice President emphasized that vision alone is no longer enough to sustain the momentum of the African Continental Free Trade Area after.
When our vision is assessed in the future, it will be judged by whether infrastructure projects were completed within a reasonable time and cost, whether firms scaled or remained competitive, whether trade was cost-effective, faster and predictable, and whether institutions retained trust.
Acknowledging the effort, coordination and leadership currently driving the continent, the Vice President warned that maintaining this momentum requires deliberate, interconnected investments.
First, intra-African trade. Second, an industrial policy that supports priority sectors, builds skills, and embraces sustainable production. Third, infrastructure and connectivity. Fourth, innovation and technology. And finally, institutional capacity and governance.
President of the Democratic Republic of Sao Tome and Principe, Carlos Villanova, urged African leaders to shift their fundamental approach to development.
Too often, we have treated infrastructure as an object to be built rather than a system to be made to work. Every year of delay compounds lost competitiveness, lost employment, and lost confidence.
Chair of the Advisory Board of African Trade Chamber, Sesam Jonah, observed that the African Continental Free Trade Area is not merely a trade deal, but a shield against a collapsing global economic order.
We must implement AFTA as our unbreakable shield, turning inward to unleash our inner empire. We must wake up, Africa. The new world demands defiance, not deference. Industrialization surges not through frantic frenzy, but through fierce focus.
The African Trade Summit 2026, themed around financing, industrialization and market integration, wrapped up after 2 days of high-level dialogue aimed at turning policy into measurable industrial outcomes.
You heard Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman observing that execution, not just vision, will define Africa's trade future. That'll be all for business news on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check our website at throughnews.com. I am Nura Mohammed. Up next is Sports with Andrews Sefa.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Andrew Sefa Bamfo. Now, let's start off from the UEFA Champions League, because the draw for the Champions League playoff was held where Real Madrid determined their fate, because they will be coming up against Benfica. Newcastle would also feature against Karabakh. And then there's also Monaco, who would be up against Paris Saint-Germain, and Galatasaray would also take on Juventus. Club Brugge would also face Atletico Madrid. Borussia Dortmund would also take on Atlanta. Olympiacos would also face Bayer Leverkusen. Now, let's turn our attention to the Ghana Premier League, because Mediama, for the first time since September 2025, they did lose a game in the Ghana Premier League after suffering a 2-1 defeat to Nations FC. Razak Simpson's brace ensured that Nations FC ran out victors at the end of the game. Following the end of the game, Razak Simpson, who is the captain for Nations FC, expressed his excitement after the win.
Oh, I'm really happy. I'm really happy. Like, I'm overwhelmed, because looking at this season, like, things has not been the same as last season or last 2 seasons. So as a captain of this nation, I'm a little bit worried, but I know what my boys can do, and I know what the coach that has come also can do. So I just give thanks to God.
And so that was Razak Simpson, Nations FC's captain, speaking. Also, there was Ibrahim Tanko, who is the head coach for Mediama. He also shared his thoughts after his side lost for the first time since September 2025, ultimately bringing an end to their 17-game undefeated streak in the Ghana Premier League. The defeat now means that Aduana SC can close the gap further on Mediama if they are able to win their game at the weekend. Ibrahim Tanko also expressed his disappointment after the defeat.
And after the first goal, definitely we allowed them to take every ball, all the second balls they won. So, and the pressure was too high, and I don't know why, but I mean, this is a game. Anyhow, you are going to lose a game, but I think here is very painful.
Okay. And so that was Ibrahim Tanko speaking about how painful it was to lose to Nations FC. And also the victor, that is Frimpong Manso of Nations FC, expresses excitement after beating Ibrahim Tanko's Mediama.
I think you can see the atmosphere around the stadium. I think we needed these points, and I think we worked very hard for it. It's not something that came by chance. We worked very hard for the win. Yeah. Before the game, I told them about a certain situation, and then it happened. So I was reminding them that this is what I was telling you. But then they were all confident. I mean, it was early, but we didn't want it to have effect on us. So we calmed our nerves and then tried to go for the game. So for me, I think it was a very nice win.
And so that was Nations FC head coach Frimpong Manso speaking. Now, the victory for Nations FC now means that they have moved up to 8th in the Ghana Premier League standing on 27 points. Just by way of update of how the top 4 looks, Mediama are still top of the Ghana Premier League with 43 points, followed by Aduana FC, who are second with 35 points. Asante Kotoko are third, also on 35 points. Accra Hearts of Oak also fourth with 35 points, making the top 4 of the Ghana Premier League. Now, before we go, let's move to the world of tennis, because Novak Djokovic will meet Carlos Alcaraz in the Australian Open final after both players came to 5-set epics to maintain their respective bids for history on Extraordinary Day in Melbourne. The 38-year-old Djokovic will have his latest shot at a record 25th major triumph, the sole ununified ambition of his illustrious career, after the Serb came from behind to beat two-time defending champion Yannick Sinner 6-3, 6-4, 6-4 at 1:30 local time in Melbourne. Spain's Alcaraz also earlier came through 6-4, 7-6, 7-5, 6-7, 3-7, 6-7, 4-7, 7-5 after an enthralling 5 hours and 27 minutes against Alexander Zverev, also to make the final, bringing an end to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. Join us same time next week for more updates in the world of news. My name is Andrew Sefa Bamfo.